Funding for this video is provided through a grant from the North Central Extension Risk Management Education, USDA, National Institute of Food and Agriculture.
Good morning, sunshine, and welcome to Make Hay in conjunction with The Ohio State University. I'm Kelly Moore, and this is a presentation for you, my farm families, on the Farms spreadsheet, the tool that will get your assets organized and your succession plan rolling. So time to fill up that coffee cup and gather your info. Let's make hay.
Hello. In this session, the first of two on the summary page, we'll discuss the assets and debt numbers being brought over from the green tabs that we previously filled out, and also the estate tax analysis. So this is the summary page, and on the left side of the page, you can see all the numbers that were brought forward from our green tabs. So bank account for information, or for example, brought over all $35,000 of those accounts that we put in. Now, you can leave it just like this, and each category has the total value, or you can look at each individual asset separately. And you do that by clicking this box right here. And then each entry under that category will come up. Now, you'll see all these blank lines or empty space. To get rid of those, to clean up, hit hide blank. And then that will cause all those blank lines to go away and clean up the summary page for us a bit. And we can do the same thing with investment accounts. That'll bring up what we put in, hide blank, and clean things up a bit. And that is available for each category. So that makes it nice. We can either do just a summary based on categories, or if you want to go into a lot of detail, we can pull up each individual asset that you put in. So in this column, it totals it up, and you'll notice we have our debt in there from our debt page that came over. And now we've got a net worth. Now we do the estate tax calculation. The first line is for any prior gifting. As you may recall, that if you make large gifts, those large gifts, you don't pay gift tax on them, but it comes off your unified credit or estate tax exemption. So we're saying you've already gifted $100,000 of something, so we have to reduce your estate tax exemption by this much. Now, this client is married, so we're going to use 2 times the federal estate tax exemption. The federal estate tax exemption was on one of the planning questions tab, if you remember that. So each year, the federal estate tax exemption changes. This number is for 2025. So if you need to put a different number in there, be sure to do that under the planning questions tab. And then it calculates the taxable estate for you. Now here, we've got a married couple worth $5.6 million. That's well under the estate tax exemption, so we don't have any taxable estate. But let's say we did. Let me go back and let me put in a big number for a piece of real estate here. Let's say this real estate's worth $30 million, just to show you how this number works. If we go back to summary, then you'll see now we're over the estate tax exemption, and it will calculate how much is in your taxable estate, and then based on the estate tax rates, will calculate the estate tax liability for you. So just kind of a handy tool there to get a quick idea of what kind of estate tax liability you may have. So let me go back and just delete that for now. Okay. So that's the first part of the summary page. In the next session, we're going to look at these columns to the right and how we can start doing some analysis of ownership and distribution plans. Thank you. Hello, this is part 2 of discussing the summary tab for the farms spreadsheet. So in the previous session, we went over the left-hand part of the summary where it pulls over all the financial and asset information from the green tabs, summarizes that, and does an estate tax analysis. Now, let's look at these columns to the right. The first 2 columns are the owners of the property. Now, these tabs are only going to be here if we're dealing with a married couple. The purpose of this column is that if we want to know, if we want to do an analysis of how much each spouse owns, what's the net worth of each spouse. We know the spouses in total have a net worth of 5.2 million, but maybe we need to know how is that 5.2 million divided among the spouses. Now, it's important to note if the client is unmarried, so if we go clear back here to family members, and if we check no, they are not married, then on the summary tab, those 2 gray columns go away because we don't need to divide it among spouses. We know that the one owner owns all of these assets, so we don't have to do an analysis between spouses. So if you're doing this, if you're doing the farm spreadsheet for an unmarried person, you won't see those green tabs. But let me go back and check. Yes, we do have married clients. And now our column is back. And so let's say we want to say, well, what's the net worth of each spouse? All we need to do is just go to this cell, put in equal, and it pulls that value right over and keeps a running total. And then we're going to give Jane this account. And now we know what her net worth is. And we do that for every asset. And after we've done it for every asset, then we know how much what the net worth of each owner is. And you can divide it up. Let's go down to real estate, and let's say they own the real estate 50-50. You can simply just do a simple formula here of that divided by 2, and that gets you half. And then we'll just pull that number over using the equal sign. And now we've got the land divided in half. So we find this useful in estate tax planning sometimes. Also, if we're dealing with second marriages, it may be important to know which spouse owns which assets, and maybe there's a premarital agreement in place that we need to reflect on the farm's spreadsheet. So you can divide assets among owners in the 2 gray columns. Now let's move over to the blue columns. This is for beneficiaries. So the first thing you want to do is identify the beneficiaries. So here we've got Jimmy, and here we've got Joan, and we can have, if you would have put 10 beneficiaries in back under family members, all 10 would show up here. But for simplicity, we'll just use 2. And you can see I've already done some of this. In this column, we're going to give Joan the life insurance, and we're going to give Jimmy the farm assets, and the business entities will pull over and keeps a running total. And I find when we're working with clients and they're having that difficult decision to make of well, how much does the off-farm heir get versus the on-farm heir? Or maybe even if it's not a off-farm, on-farm heir, they may not want to treat the children equally for whatever reason. There's equitable issues to address. I find that having a tool like this, where we can sit with the client and just say, okay, well, if Jimmy gets the business entities and Joan gets the life insurance, here's what the numbers look like. Are these numbers sort of what you were thinking? And if they are, then we've made a lot of progress. If not, that's okay. We can just keep adjusting numbers until we get to where the client is comfortable. So really nice, valuable, easy to use tool to go in and do different scenarios for the distribution plan. So again, we just start with any of the assets, but you just pull all of the assets over to the right. Again, you can do it by category, or you can pull over very specific assets. As we see here, we can pull over the 700,000 instead of the entire category. And just work your way through the all the different assets. And if those numbers don't look quite right, then maybe you go back and say, well, let's split the business entities in half. So we can just divide that by 2 and pull that over. And now what do the numbers look like? Well, those numbers look better. So we're making progress. So that's the concept there. There are no formulas here other than the summary at the top and bottom. There are summary formulas, but everything else, everything through here, do not have formulas. So you need to input that yourself, whether you're, just simple formulas to pull those assets over or divide them by 2. So you need a little bit of experience with Excel, but it's very basic. And if you're not quite sure how to do it, there's many online free resources, YouTube videos you can watch for 5 minutes and probably get the hang of it. But this is the summary page, very valuable tool, pulls all of the information from the green tabs together, lets us do that estate tax analysis and net worth analysis, lets us divide assets between the spouses if we need to, and then lets us visualize what that distribution plan among the beneficiaries may be. And if it's off one way or the other, lets us easily go in and shift assets around until we get a plan that the client is comfortable with. Okay. Well, I hope that explains the summary page and also all the information tabs, the asset tabs, the debt tabs. And next, we'll get into some of the other planning tools like identifying your trustee and executor and power of attorney. Thank you.
We hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time here at Make Hay.